Hey all, welcome to Caboose's Divergent Discussion. I'm Tina, and I also have lived experience with autism and ADHD through people in my life. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation with Anj today. And before we get started, I just had a quick note that the session is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. We'll also have time at the end for any audience questions, so feel free to drop any questions in the chat. And without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce our wonderful guest today, Anj. So Anj Cairns is an ADHD coach, trainer, and self-confessed ideas generator. She works with ADHD adults, especially those wrestling with executive functioning skills, and to help them find strategies that actually fit their brain. Late diagnosed ADHD herself, Anj combines lived experience with coaching expertise, always bringing warmth, humor, and plenty of real-world honesty to her work. So Anj, I'm so excited to have you here today, and thank you so much for joining us.
It's very lovely to be here, Tina.
Amazing. And I'm looking forward to our chat today as well. So let's just jump straight in. So perfectionism can look different for neurodivergent people. And how do you typically see that showing up, Anj?
Oh, well, there's a few things that come up for people, including myself over time, although I'm trying to dispense it, send it away. But typically people overworking, getting really worried, going above and beyond what's asked of them because they want to show that they can do things, that they want to get things right. So people get a little bit focused on sometimes on small things and get stuck on small things that other people won't even notice because it's this absolute fear of failure as it's known. And it comes up time and time again. So every single thing ends up having to be right. It drains people. It means people take longer to do things than necessarily they would like to. And often we find people end up spending a lot of time in the planning phase and the thinking about it phase rather than the doing. So really stuck in that thinking about it and wanting to get every single little thing planned out first of all before they do any doing.
I love that so much. So it sounds like they're doing a lot of front loading of the work and a lot of just trying to, I guess, make like overworking, as you said. And I'm so curious, why does this happen to begin with? Why does this perfectionism happen?
I think there's a few different elements that come up. And the biggest ones for me are the way that we're brought up. We are brought up to achieve, to do things, to pass exams, to behave in certain ways. And especially as women and girls, that comes into play even more so. We're supposed to be a certain way, be nice and quiet and caring. So we want to live up to those things for people. Our brains work differently, and we try to do things in the way that we're told. So this is how you do this thing. But it doesn't always work for us. And that causes real problems for us. So we start to sort of embed those things, start to embed the things that we hear, which are, if you just try a little bit harder, and that sense that you're not good enough. If you just, those school reports that people used to get, which was very much so, well, if Ange could just try a little bit harder, or if Tina put a little bit more effort into that, then everything would be okay. She'd be brilliant. She'd be acing it. But actually, it's not about that for us. It's about finding out what works for us best and how to do the things. But when we have grown up being told, this is the way you do it, this is the way you do it, this is the way you do it, and you try to veer off and do something that represents the way that works for your brain, and you're told, no, that's wrong, that gets inside your head. It sticks in there, and you end up with these limiting beliefs that really can hold you back. Um, and that really belief, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I am not the same as everybody else. Why can't I do this? So all these messages keep coming up, and we get stuck in this, like, if it's not perfect, it's not good enough.
Mm, I see. So it sounds like because we weren't able to meet those high standards, some negative thoughts or self-beliefs start to happen, and then the perfectionism increases even more instead of actually help. Even though the thoughts were meant to help in the first place, it's just like a cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, our brains are trying to help us in those moments. They're trying to protect us. But at the same time, that's not the kind of help that we need to move forward and find ways that work for us.
And how would a neurodivergent brain approach this differently?
I think there's this thing that there is only one way of doing things. Well, there isn't. And so when I work with people quite a lot is, well, what what works for you? What's worked for you in the past? What do you enjoy doing? And there's a little bit kind of linking in with the play then is what happens? What will happen if you do this slightly differently? You try to tweak it or do it a different way. What are the consequences? And we get people to break down what that might be for them. And so people see actually that they're probably not going to get the sack from their job if they do something in a slightly different way, but still come out with the result that's needed.
So it sounds like experimenting and doing small things here and there and seeing the outcome and it not being that bad.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this is, and you say experimenting, often I think about it as a bit like science. So we see science maybe as being a bit rigid and not really akin to play, but science really is about exploring and finding out what works and what doesn't work. And we test things out and we get a bit of data from it. So we find out what we thought was true or not, and then we move on. But there's never only a final result in science. There's no like, you have hit the like absolute top. You are perfect now. So you need to stop trying. Play's all about dipping in and trying things, a bit like experimenting.
Hmm. And it sounds like with experimenting as well, it's coming more from a place of curiosity, which puts a lot less pressure on us to be perfect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk quite a lot in coaching about what's good enough. Not what's perfect. When growing up, my parents were absolutely brilliant and they were lovely. And they used to say, just try your best. But for me, my best wasn't what I was necessarily doing. So we need to sort of change the questions that we ask ourselves. So, what's good enough and what's good enough today? Yesterday, I might have had all of the energy in the world, and what I could do yesterday is different to what I can do today. So, what's good enough for me today and what will be okay in terms of what I want to get done or what other people want me to do.
That's so interesting. And definitely we need to talk more about the good enough as well later. And when it comes to perfectionism itself, I can see as before, we were saying how it's not particularly helpful. So what's actually happening in our brain? Because we want perfectionism to help, right? But it's actually backfiring.
Yeah. So our brain becomes our protector, really, in that sense. So parts of our brain that go back to hundreds of thousands of years when we were quite, primitive beings, for want of a better phrase, and we had to protect ourselves from the lions and the tigers and the bears or whatever creatures that were around at the time. At the same time, we were on high alert for things, and our brains, particularly neurodivergent brains, tend to be on that alert more often than not. So we will look for that danger. We're kind of primed to look for it instead of looking for the opportunities and the fun and the success and things. So our brain will be sending messages to us saying, well, if you don't get this absolutely right, there will be a consequence. Something bad will happen in that. So it then starts to send these messages to our body. And we will find things like, our cortisol will raise, we will become anxious, we will go into a bit of a spiral about it. And we're not kind of in the best place then to move forward, to do the things. And we end up getting stuck, and our brains are lovely. Yeah. I've got this is not my actual brain, but this is a brain and it's here. And I like to call it the squishy, sparkly brain. And squishy, sparkly brain really loves me and wants me to get things right, but has a bit of an outdated messages. So sometimes I have to say, look, I know you're trying to help, but right now that's not helpful for me. You've done a good thing, but just go and sit over there for a while I try this.
And when you talk to your brain, so when, for example, it's going into protection mode and you're in the middle of, say, writing an essay or doing something that you want to make perfect, what kind of tone can you bring on when talking to your brain? Like if you're having a conversation with a friend, what kind of tone would that friend have?
So it's about bringing kindness to that conversation and bringing kindness to ourselves, which is something that we are often quite bad at. We we are striving to get everything right and perfect. And so we can just go to ourselves and go, well, you're not good enough. Or you can say, well, what's happening with you right now? What do you need? What's got you feeling this perfectionism or feeling that you're a bit stuck? What else can you do instead right now? What do you need in the next 5 minutes? Not in the big grand scheme of things, but what do you need now?
Mhm.
But
And
being kind, no,
why is it so hard for people to access that?
it's a very human thing. Our brains will go towards the negative because of the danger. So we are not used to those positive messages. There's a stat, and I can never remember the exact stat, a study that was done with children where children, by the time they get to the age of 12, have heard, children with ADHD have heard um, so many thousands more negative messages than a neurotypical child. Now, it's one study, so I take it with a pinch of salt. But equally, as humans, we pick up on those things and they are embedded and we take them seriously. And it's so hard to get beyond that. We have to start noticing the positives in ourselves, the positive traits in ourselves, the things that we have done well, because otherwise we just forget them. I can't remember who came up with the phrase success amnesia, ironically, but it's something that, we forget the good. We focus on the negative, and that's a built-in protection thing with all humans. It just feels like it's more elevated when it comes to neurodivergent humans.
Mhm. It's like a overprotective mum where on one hand they're really helpful, on the other hand it can be not helpful in many ways as well.
Yeah, because we've got to go off and find our own way in the world, yeah?
Definitely. And say if you're in the middle of doing something and the perfectionism hits, what's a typical script or something that's beginner friendly for people who aren't used to talking to themselves nicely?
Yeah, good question. So noticing is the really important thing. So what are the signs for you actually that you are beginning to get pulled into perfectionism, and noticing that, and then just taking a moment to say, well, what's the results of me continuing this way? When do I need to have this done by? If I need to have this done by like today in 30 minutes time and perfectionism has got me stuck, then I'm not going to get finished. And that kind of like, um, done is better than perfect. It's really often true. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect. If we take perfect out of the equation and we say perfect doesn't exist, what do I need to do within the time scale that I've got? What's possible without absolutely draining myself? Because you're allowed to take that into account. You're allowed to be kind to yourself and show that compassion and say, well, I am not going to like burn myself out because people want this piece of work, or whatever it is, or I'm trying to finish this piece of knitting. And I've got an example. I'm wearing this jumper for a reason. So I do a bit of knitting, not a lot of knitting, and I wanted to use up some wool that I had left over from the pandemic and the lockdown. So I thought, right, it's been there a while. Let's do something. Let's knit a jumper. But knowing that I'm not perfect, I set out with the whole idea that if I made a mistake, I was just going to leave the mistake, and at the end, I was going to highlight the mistakes with the pink thread. So it doesn't look too bad at this bit, but then when you get down to here, there's lots of it. So it's about thinking about, does it matter? What am I learning from this? What do I need? And what do I need in that moment? No.
Mhm. I love that jumper, by the way, and I love how visceral of an image it is of just going on with, even if it's not 100% perfect.
Yeah, because we get stuck and we go down that line and we'll be there forever because we will then be looking for things that are wrong, and can get into a bit of a spiral about that, and it will never be finished. Now we don't have to finish everything. That's a different subject. But if we want to finish something, then would we rather finish it and it needs some tweaks to it, or it not it'd be okay. It'd be okay.
It'll be okay.
Than not finish it.
And when you say it'll be okay, when someone is experiencing perfectionism, what's the thing that they're most scared of that will happen?
People tend to In my experience personally, but also with clients that I work with, people will go to the worst case scenario. If I say, if I don't do this perfectly, people will not like me anymore. They won't want to do things with me anymore. I'll get the sack from my job if this isn't perfect, or if I make a little mistake in it. And that's possibly because we've had quite a lot of negative experiences in society, and I get that. So that's not to ignore those things, but to say in most cases that's not what's likely to actually happen to us. But we've got these really inbuilt fears. It's quite terrifying. We want to prove ourselves. We want to show that we can, because we can. But we are almost sort of self-sabotaging by trying to make ourselves fit into a box we don't fit in. We're not in the box doesn't exist. So how are we going to do this task that's better for us and doesn't have all of those negative consequences? Does that answer the question? Because I can't remember what the actual question was there.
So it does in a sense, because how, I guess, what are people afraid of? And you said the worst case scenario. And if
Yeah.
that's so true to them, because not just in my situation, but with other friends as well, who don't want to, say, for example, leave a job because they need to find the perfect job lined up. But that's impossible because it's, yeah, there's no perfect anything out there. Or they want to uh, complete this project perfectly, or else they won't submit it. And in them, it's so true. And even I relate to that as well. When I'm perhaps making a video, it has to be 100% perfect, or else it's not going to go out there. And it is that fear. But how do you even begin to get over that fear? Because it's just, you've held it for so long.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard. It's really hard. And, these are very ingrained beliefs that we have. For me, that doing is a really important element of this, but not going in big, not going in, right, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do this thing and not worry about it being perfect, because you're going to worry about it being perfect. It's going to be a really hard thing for you to do. So start with small things that have less importance and try doing them in a different way, or try just be anti-perfect with things that don't really matter. Does it really matter that again, this is an example of it. This has no consequence to anybody but me. So I wasn't going to give this to someone or sell it to someone. I was just going to have a play with it and see what happened if I let the mistakes happen. Nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. What happened was quite good, because I've got a jumper, which is kind of fun, and I kind of like it in the end. So it's small, safe steps, so that you're not too far out of your comfort zone, but then you are showing yourself that it is possible to do things differently. It is possible to not be perfect, and that to be okay. And testing out people's reactions maybe to some of those small things. See if they even notice, because a lot of the time they don't, because the thoughts are in our head and we're telling ourselves a particular story.
So being able to take small actions that are safe, and then building enough data to prove to ourselves that even if we are anti-perfect, as you said, we can still survive, we can still have a good time. And it sounds like using those actions. What about, is there a mindset as well that we need to layer on top of that, or will just doing the actions itself be enough?
The mindset but they kind of go hand in hand, because when you start to see that data and you start to have that proof for yourself, it changes the way that you're thinking. It gives you a bit of confidence. It gives you something to build on. And so one of the things that I've tried to do, and I sometimes forget that it's there, to be honest, is this is my Sparkle book. And my Sparkle book, it's almost like the opposite of a burn book, the burn book from Mean Girls. It's about me, and it's where I write the good things that come out, like the things that I've learned, or the things that I've done well, or the good comments that people have given me. So then, on a day where I'm doubting myself, I can go back, I can have a look, I can pull out some of those and go, yes, you do, actually people do value what you do, who you are as a person as well.
I love that. It's a go-to place to, I guess it's your biggest cheerleader in that sense.
Yeah. And actually, what we want to do is get to the point where we are our own biggest cheerleader. We're told we're not supposed to big ourselves up, but why not? Why not? We're the best people to do that.
And who else to do it? You're in your own relationship for your whole life, so might as well be you, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess it's a quite a hard question to answer because there's just so many variabilities. But for someone who has never actually faced like anti-perfectionism before, how long would it take them to be able to find that voice of kindness and be their best cheerleader?
Mm, I it depends. I mean, you expected me to say it depends, I guess, but it's often quicker than you think because the something to do with the doing builds that change in your self-perception quite quickly. Um, if you're doing that actively as well and you're noting down the results of it, you know, if you've got something like a Sparkle book or somewhere where you just go, yeah, okay, I did this and this happened. It wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. The world didn't come to an end. I didn't lose my job. Like my partner still loves me or, you know, any of those things. I'm still fab, you know, and just saying those, but we have to repeat those messages to ourselves quite a lot, I think, before it starts to sink in. Because you can know something, but that's different to believing something at the same time.
Yep.
And that's why, you know, I say start small, but it is almost like that snowball effect. Get a few flakes in there, and then you try some more and you get more flakes, and your snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And then you can build a snow human if you want to, or whatever you want to.
Whatever you want. We'll see what comes because perfectionism, we'll throw that aside and just see what holds for us in the future. And in terms of the perfectionism as well, I've noticed that when it comes to it, it can actually be really draining and really hard to be able to do things in an efficient way. So, how does it lead to things like executive dysfunction or burnout?
Yeah, well, it likes to. I think perfectionism kind of plays with its friends with the executive dysfunction. It's kind of then I'm trying to be perfect. Why can't you remember that? Why couldn't you do that like someone else could do? So again, it's perpetuating those messages the things that we're telling ourselves, really, the stories that we're telling ourselves. But that then leads to overwork. It leads to trying really hard, it's throwing everything at things. And sometimes that works, but it doesn't always work and it doesn't work forever. And we get to the point where we are starting to feel the physical effects of it as well as the mental effects, that we are exhausted by things. We're permanently trying to catch up with ourselves. We're trying to fit this thing. And if you take the idea that perfection doesn't exist, then you're trying to do something that doesn't exist. So you're always going to be moving further and further into this. You can hit a standard, but then you're going to up that standard pretty much because we're told that you should always be getting better. There's always something more you can do. But why? But why? So really, we want to protect ourselves from overwhelm, from burnout, from getting ourselves into a position where we're not able to do the things that we want for ourselves and for other people as well. And so that question earlier on, what's good enough? What's good enough in this situation? What's good enough in this situation now? And not just what's good enough, but what support do I need? Perfectionism makes it really hard for people to ask for support because we don't want to be seen as needing that help. You know, oh, if I ask for help, they're going to think that I'm rubbish at this. I'm not good enough. But asking for help is such a such a helpful thing. It's a skill. It's a skill, and it's something that takes away a lot of the friction in life.
For people who struggle to ask for help, for example, right now, if they're listening to this and they're like, I don't need help with this at all, what's one reframe or one thing that can change their mind on it?
Well, one of the things I always think about this is that there's a lot of value in asking for help because the person that you're asking will likely appreciate being asked so that you're doing something good for someone else. You're building someone's self esteem by asking about their knowledge and experience. 'Cause people like to share. So that's one side of it, really. As humans, we can't do everything. We can't do everything. We'd love to be able to, but again, that would be perfection and that doesn't exist. So we are helping ourselves and we're helping others and we're helping whatever that task is that we want to get done by asking for a bit of support.
It's like we're also doing them a favor as well by asking them to rise up to do the favor for us, from the sounds of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to also move into the topic of play, which you mentioned before. So, what does that actually look like for neurodivergent adults? For example, yeah, please take it away.
I'm going to talk a little bit about play from my point of view to start
Mhm.
off with as a neurodivergent adult. And play is something that's very much associated with children. It's something that you are kind of supposed to grow out of. Um, you do the childish things when you're a child, and then you grow up and you're an adult, and you do the adult things, and you might still do a bit of playing, but it's very kind of defined playing. And we get into very fixed ways of doing things and thinking about things. And that's where those kind of the right things come into play. For me, play is creative. It's about trying things out and trying things in a different way, but doing it in a way that we enjoy. So it might incorporate some of the things that we had when we were younger. I've got a load of Lego over there. I love the Lego. I haven't used it for quite a while, but I was going through a big Lego phase. Everyone bought me Lego, and I had a lot of fun playing with that, trying out different things. Now, that's a very kind of play orientated thing, but it is about thinking more broadly and allowing ourselves to do something slightly differently that might be fun. Because a lot of us have these interest-based brains. So how can we build on that sort of strength that we have and draw things out? But play is creative. It's the thing. It's imaginative. It's that science. It's how we discover things in life about ourselves. It's how we learn.
And I love how you're talking about being creative and the imaginative side as well. And more of a, I guess maybe it's a bit more of a selfish question, and because I've seen it with my friends and also myself as well. As adults, or when we were younger, it was very much focused on exams and studying and just being able to survive and then, work a job in the end as an adult. But now as an adult, you don't really have any, well, it's hard to know what you actually enjoy because that was so hidden away in the early years. So as someone who might not know where even to start with interests, where do you even go?
Well, I would say to people is if they can't, first of all, I would say to people, what did you do when you were really small that you liked? So if you've got those memories, not everyone will, that's fair enough. If not, I say to people, well, let's like make a little playlist of things that you might want to try. Is that about going out on your bike and just cycling around the neighborhood? Is that because that's play in itself? Is it about getting some crafting material and doing something new? Is it about just doing something different? So there's something in your body. So there's a I can't remember a lot of things this morning. It's the morning here, but there's a thing which is all about movement and how like we tend to move in the same ways. So if you move around more in different ways that you wouldn't normally move around, walk around your house backwards. Just kind of small things that you can try out. But if you've got things that you're interested in doing and you've never had the opportunity to do them, then make a little playlist of what they are. I like to write things down I've got floor to ceiling windows in my flat. I like to write with chalk pens on the window so I can see those things there in a go-to moment and like, what can I try? What are the ideas that I've got in there that I want to try and do and play with? And just having some sort of things nearby.
Mhm. So it's sort of like a menu, like a food menu where you can just choose
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of got a few books with me as well. So, like this one, for example, is What the February, and it's 108 weird creative challenges for humans. Now, you're not necessarily going to want to do one of those, but like I've just opened it on a certain page here. Bad things that don't exist. This challenge is set by guest challenger, the artist Kazland. Kaz's challenge is simply to create something in response to the prompt, bad things that don't exist. It's totally up to you what you do. So, it's like kind of going, right, I've got 10 minutes. Oh, I'm going to have a play with some of the ideas in this book.
Yeah. And It sounds like it's a very accessible way to just start doing something small. What are other small ways that someone can start bringing more play into their lives, especially if they're quite busy?
I think if you're busy, it's like just looking at what you're doing in that particular situation. I'm going to work. My head feels like it's in work this morning. I don't know why. But so how could you do this so it's a bit more fun? I've got this one task that I've got to do. And we talk in ADHD coaching quite a lot about gamifying things, giving ourselves a little bit of a challenge to see if we can do that. We don't have to do it forever, but like in the next 5 minutes, what can I do? Setting a timer, seeing what we can do. So it's adding a little bit of challenge into things. Trying to do things in a slightly different way. So, I mean, play can be as much as doodling, sitting doodling while you're on a call. I'm not doing it at the moment. I often do that. Um, Picking up something that maybe doesn't take a lot of time to do, but you can just, finger painting. I'm just plucking things out of the air here. You don't need a lot to do these things, and you can just lean into it a little bit. That was a terrible example.
No, it's not. So
Right.
it sounds,
But we're playing with it here. We're playing
yeah,
with
we're
it here.
playing.
What can you do in everyday life? Can you make, when you're putting your food out on your plate, can you make it look like a smiley face? Can
Just
you
fine.
write this
Yep.
thing with your hand that you don't normally use to write with? See what that's like. So things that don't take a lot of time, but just can add a little bit of play into it and lightness with it. Not expecting a result necessarily, not having an idea of what you're going to have at the end. That's kind of quite a nice way of doing it. Because if we take out that expectation and we sort of do take that, we've got to get it exactly right. We've got to be perfect with it out of the equation.
When you talk about playing, sounds very much like, let's see how this goes. Let's write with my left hand. Let's see how finger painting goes as well. What does play actually mean in this case?
It's it's allowing your brain to explore things in a way that feels fun. It's not about, I think it is when we go back to the whole idea about science and experimenting, it's trying things out without like fear of the consequences. So, we're not setting ourselves a standard. We're just like doing what we can. We're seeing how that turns out. And if it doesn't matter. And you can start things and not finish them. It's okay. It's okay to do that. So I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but we've got a program called Mastermind, which has been around since I was a kid. And the Mastermind is a quiz show. And when a timer goes on while the presenter is asking the questions, and when the timer goes beep, 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 the presenter, if they're in the middle of a question, says, "I've started, so I'll finish." Um, and that is something that feels really sort of ingrained. I've started a thing, so I should finish it. It's bad not to finish things. It's not bad not to finish things. You don't have to. Some things, yes, but not everything. So if you're doing something and you're playing with it, you might decide it's not for you. You might decide, yeah, I've done enough of this now. Like, I've just had a little go. It's good. I enjoyed it, but I've had enough now. And you can always come back to it later. No.
It's sort of listening to what you want to do because it's your playtime and no one else's. And even when you talked about doing it without fear of consequences, something that came up was when trying new hobbies or trying new things as well, instead of it being something fun, I feel like it's quite natural to turn it into a task and outcome oriented kind of thing. So how do you stop that? Because say if someone out there wants to, try finger painting, try bouldering, try whatever, instantly it becomes something where they need to strive in or turn into something productive and it doesn't become fun anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I get that. I really get that. We hear that a lot. I feel that a lot about things. Um, there is something what you were saying earlier about mindset and how you approach something when you're going into it. And it's about saying, I'm going to try this. I might just do it once. If I really like it, then asking yourself, what do I need to have in place so I don't end up making it about perfection, making it about hitting targets. There might be things that it's okay. You might want to become like a brilliant climber. You might want to hit all kinds of standards. It's the same as, some people who do sport want to be Olympic champions, but actually some people like to play for the fun of it. And it is okay. It's allowing yourself to know that it is okay to do things just for the sake of doing them, without having to prove to someone else. Because actually, who are you proving it to? Who, by reaching more of these standards, who does that mean something to? Does it to you? Are you trying to prove something to someone else? Because if it's to something else, for someone else, then is that really helpful to you? It might be.
And whether it's for someone else or for yourself as well. So when you're actually doing, say, the playtime, how do you prevent yourself from feeling guilty because it's not considered, I guess, productive?
Yeah, okay. So big one. And again, this doesn't happen overnight. It's about saying, you can say, this is my time. There is something that's really helpful about saying, right, well, I'm going to block off a bit of my day for me to do the things that I want to, regardless of what I've done during the day, regardless whether I've ticked off all of the things on my to-do list, or I've done something wonderful. But I need, as a human, to have some time to do some things that I enjoy, because that's a form of rest. So rest isn't necessarily lying down and sleeping. It can be doing the things that we enjoy, is restful, restorative. It brings us energy. And while we're in those spaces, while we're playing, our brains often come up with solutions to the problems that we have in other, and challenges we have in other bits of our lives.
Mhm. Yep. I've definitely had that many times before. For example, I'd be playing volleyball and I'd be like, so that was the solution to so and so. That could be because I just got hit in the face and it just woke me up. And I guess when it comes to, I guess, the aspect of self-worth, so how do people separate their self-worth from the output, especially when it comes to doing these hobbies or these playtimes?
Yeah, this is almost like, are you a human being or are you a human doing? Can you just do the things without expecting to have a reward or something from it? Or can you just enjoy the moment? And it takes a little bit of time, again, to realize that you can just, um, for the sake of doing them. They don't need to have an outcome. And a lot of this comes from the society that we live in.
Mhm.
Everything is like geared towards being productive. We need to be productive. We need to achieve things. We need to do things. I guess this has been around since industrialization. So, it takes a little while to unpick all of those things. And if you've grown up in that world with those beliefs, then yes, drawing it back can be hard. Um, I would say that you maybe need to leave some little reminders for yourself. So, because again, that tendency to forget, but having a piece of paper that says, yeah, it's okay just to do this and have fun. You don't need a target. You don't need to, interestingly enough. So I have really kind of pulled back quite a lot from my personal social media lately, because I just felt like I was putting things online to show other people what I'd done, so I could, I get their feedback. I wasn't doing it for me anymore. And I've pulled back on that. And I thought it would be weird. It's not weird at all. I'm actually now more concentrating on what I want to do. And I do share things with people still. I do like to get that external gratification still. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm wearing my jumper today. At the same time, it's not the be all and end all. I am not doing something for it to be on display. So I guess that's a sort of a similar kind of thing to the productivity side of it. If you are the person who's doing that, it's normal. It's pretty normal in this world, because that's what we are geared and pushed towards doing. But it's not always helpful for us.
At a fundamental level, how do you break that? Because if it's something that we grew up in ever since we were little, to be geared towards productivity, reminders will, for example, putting sticky notes around will definitely be good reminders, but is there anything that can break the root cause or the root problem?
I think the root cause is, well, as I say, There isn't necessarily a magic switch or an overnight thing. It is about trying those small experiments, doing small things differently. It is the playing with it so that you can get some evidence yourself. If there was if, if we could just say to everyone, I'd love to just say to everyone, it's okay. Just tell yourself this and you'll believe it. But we believe things by doing, by seeing that evidence a lot of the time. So again, some of the doing will help to springboard you in that direction.
Nike should sponsor us for Just Do It.
Yes, they should.
And yeah, so gathering evidence through doing. And what if the actual starting, for example, after a big day of work, a 9 to 5 job, you
Mhm.
come home and you're like, yes, I'm going to play. I'm going to start exploring different hobbies. And then the actual starting of exploring is actually quite draining because of the barrier. Like when you start something, a new hobby, it doesn't become fun instantly. There's a bit of a learning curve. There's a lot of things to have to overcome. And it might not even be fun when you actually do it. And it could actually be draining. So how do you even get over that?
Ah, So what I would say is think about the timing when you are doing something new. Is that the right time of the day to be starting with play with something that's new? Or can you play with something that, or create or do something that you already enjoy, that you know? And so at any moment, I would say, what's your energy levels like? So when we talk about having a playlist of things that you can do, within your playlist, you can think about what sort of energy it takes to do things. How long will it take to do this? If your task is to like knit a jumper, or I've got on some of mine, I've got like practice the guitar. Um, Sometimes that's not specific enough. Like maybe it's like practice the guitar for 10 minutes, have a play with that. And maybe it's knit for 10 minutes. It's not about finishing, it's not about perfection. It's about a little bit of time that's not too draining for you, or going back to something that you already love and know that you love and know that it's easy for you to sort of slot into. And that will build up your I can, rather than this is really hard for me right now. Because the end of the day is not always the ideal time, but it can give us a boost. It can, like, we can shift the way that we're thinking and feeling.
And for example, even if it is, say, a good time of the day where we have more energy, what you're saying is to start on a hobby that we do like, and then maybe that will give us enough confidence to try out newer and different types of hobbies.
Yeah, it can be a really good starting point for someone else. Start with what you know, start with what you already enjoy, and give yourself a bit of I can boost. And then you move in something else, but make that start quite small. Don't expect yourself to master it all in that evening. It's big. What do you want to try to do in that evening?
Mhm.
You might just want to play around with it, find out a little bit more. You might want to try one exercise. And so you're then sort of setting yourself something that's achievable. And we're going back to productivity here. We never really fully escape it because that's how we sort of see things. But it is like, if I do that, that'll, that's enough. I don't need to do it all.
Yep. And as you said, just doing something small and then
Mm.
building up that evidence and showing yourself that you can do things and being able to have fun as well. And when it comes to, say, you're in the moment, you're doing the play task, how do you know you're on the right track?
Well, I think being on the right track isn't always the right question, what the right thing to know if you're playing around with it. I think what is worth knowing is the signs that you have if you are getting a little bit too um, if you're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to stop, you're getting a bit hyper focused on it, or you're really struggling, or not enjoying it. What are the signs that you have, that you see in yourself, and that you notice that that's happening? Because that's a kind of like, right, I want to put this aside now. That might not be for me. That might not be for me right now, or I might need to go back a step. And again, it's okay to do that, to find out how to play in that way. If we're really not enjoying something, there's no point forcing ourselves to do it.
That's fair. It's no, no.
Work things we have to find at work. There are obviously things in life we have to find ways around and different ways of doing it. So we will be playing with it in that sense to find a way of doing it. But in our own time, for our own enjoyment, it really is down to us.
It's our time. And I feel like that's the thing, right? Whether that be going to work or doing other things or making other people's lives better as well, it's never for us. And this is the allocated time where we could be just children and have fun in our own way as well.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, we bring that like the childlike curiosity, the fun and the play back into our lives, and it will benefit other areas of our lives as well.
Yeah. Say if someone really enjoys their job and considers it fun, is that enough playtime for them?
Wow, it could be, but I would say that people tend to want to do something different outside of work necessarily. Depends. It all depends. But it doesn't have to be just work. We are whole people. You can love your job. You can really enjoy what you're doing. That is brilliant. If you're in that situation, it's great. But equally, especially sort of from a neurodivergent side of things, that might not tick all the boxes in terms of what you need to feel like a whole person and fulfilled.
Yeah. And in terms of, I guess, neurodivergence as well, what's one fundamental reframe that someone with neurodivergence can take on when it comes to overcoming perfectionism?
But it doesn't exist. But in most cases, perfection doesn't exist. So if you take, I say in most cases, if we're talking about maths or something, there's a correct answer. Um, but in general, in life, perfect doesn't exist. Whose perfect is it? So if you take that, if you put perfect to the side and go, what do I want to get from this? Will nourish me? What will take me forward? What will help others as well in this? Then it's a different way of looking at it. So let's delete perfectionism. There are words I want to delete, right? To get rid of, like should. The should word, it needs to be deleted. And perfectionism. But I suppose they are words that tell us about ourselves, and are useful from that point of view. Yeah.
We should just replace every perfectionism word with your word anti-perfectionism.
Yeah, maybe. That's interesting. And I wonder how that will work for people. So maybe that's a small experiment for us to try.
Yeah, let's do it.
But yeah, I'm going to be anti-perfectionist about this. No. But it is about, again, you could get perfect about being anti-perfectionist. So, oh, I'm not anti-perfectionist enough. It's, yeah, it's noticing and thinking, is this useful for me?
Yeah. Is it useful? Is it helpful for me? Those are very good questions. And when it comes to your neuro nuggets on ADHD as well, when it comes to time blindness and everyday life, what's one insight or tool from those that will really stick with people?
Well, there's so much about time blindness, isn't there? It's something that I didn't really think that I had myself until I had my diagnosis and started realizing that I was compulsively early for everything. Like, and the anxiety levels were quite high. So I did put this coping strategy in. It wasn't always completely helpful. Occasionally now I'm late. But just if there are things that you do regularly and you need to have a better sense of time, try have a go at timing some of them. I know that it takes me 20 minutes to have a shower and dry my hair, so that helps me to fit that into a routine in the morning. The unknown things, leave extra time. Leave extra time. There are so many things about time blindness. Having visual, having clocks around. We've got phones and things, but they're not necessarily in front of us. So I can see it on the computer now, but I also have like 2 clocks in my room. So whichever way I turn, I know what the time is and how time is passing. So make it easy for yourself by being able to see it.
Yep. Thank you for that. And if there's just one thing that someone can take away from our conversation today, what would you hope it is?
I hope that in realizing that people will kind of start to go, am I like trying to be perfect about this? Is there a different way of looking at it? Because if I'm trying to be perfect about something, I am saying to myself, I am not good enough. So you can put the perfectionism aside in that situation and ask, what's good enough? You start to accept yourself more.
What's good enough?
What's good enough?
So, for an example, if someone were to be writing an essay,
Mm.
how do they define what good enough is?
But sometimes this is a bit of a leap of faith. So if you are doing an essay and you are on the 10th draft of it, it could be that, it's done. It was done a couple of drafts ago. It was good enough then. The fear is of turning like in a piece of work that isn't going to get that A or isn't that. So in those situations, I would say ask someone else to have a look, get someone's opinion, because if we're not sure, another point of view is helpful if you can do that. Again, going back to sort of those lesser stakes things, you don't want to do that necessarily for an exam piece of work or something that's going to be towards a qualification, but maybe there's a smaller piece of work that we're doing, an essay that we're saying, well, look, we think this is okay. It would be great actually if it's not. Because if it's not, then I'll get some feedback about what needs to change rather than me second guessing that and spending a long time on it. Learning is about making mistakes as well. So doing things differently and that exploring. And yeah, play, creativity, learning, they all go together. And it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to be perfect.
It sounds like just a lot of undoing what we all learnt in childhood.
It so much is. And I'm not saying that this is easy. It does take time. You need to prove stuff to yourself, as I said earlier, but it does make a difference. It's made a difference to me. It's made a difference to people that I work with. It's quite freeing to say you're allowed to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are quite good because you learn something from a mistake. So a question to take away, I think, is really like, if something doesn't go the way that you planned, if you haven't met the standard that you think that something should be at, what have I learned? What have I learned from this situation? Being kind to yourself and compassionate in that. But what have I learned? Because that can tell you a lot about what you want to do next time or what you want to try.
Mhm. Even just hearing what you're saying as well, it's like if you were your own parent and you were
Mm.
such a, one of those really cool parents that was just like, just make mistakes and you can learn as you go, compared to you have to be perfect and get grade A's for everything. It's such a contrast. And it's now that we're adults, we can be our own parents and just let ourselves have fun and go, you know what, Tina, or, Ange, you have like the rest of the night tonight to just go and explore and have fun and make mistakes, and you don't have to finish things perfectly. Just have a great time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be exciting times for everyone who hopefully listens to this interview and can go out and explore different things as well.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Tina, if we've got time for that.
Yeah, of course.
So it's the end of your working week. What are you going to go off and explore and play with this weekend?
Well, there's something that's inbuilt tomorrow, which is a volleyball competition, but I tore my arm. So
Oh,
so it'll be play in the sense of let's experiment and see whether I don't break my arm even further tomorrow.
I think that's
Besides that,
good.
sorry?
Let's go.
Thank you. Besides that, really, I'm trying to do more fun things that don't involve it having to be productive, or I guess showing the world, hey, I created this thing. So I've been trying to crochet whilst watching a list of 100 funniest movies because I want to learn more about humor and how to incorporate humor more in day-to-day life. So those are some ways of having fun. And it's quite different to my old ways of doing things, which was just how to be productive, even trying to turn all my hobbies into something productive. Yeah. What about you, Ange?
Well, oh, so this weekend, what have I got going on? I think I actually want to kind of pop back into some projects that I've already started. So, and just do a little bit around those. So I'm writing, or I plan to write a book called The Bus
Ooh.
Driver, which is, I've written, like, in the past, I wrote some young adult novels, and this is kind of like a spin-off from it. So, but I've been talking about it quite a long time, so I just want to spend a little time playing with the ideas that I've got because they keep popping up into my head and just kind of, see where that's going without any expectation that I'm going to write a novel in a weekend or anything like that. So just play with those ideas.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it when it comes out as well. And definitely, we've covered a lot today. And if any of the audience people have any questions, feel free to leave it in the YouTube comments after this video is uploaded. And if anything resonated today with any of the audience as well, please check out Anj on Neuronuggets on our Caboose app. And thank you so much for being here today, Anj, and thank you everyone else. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tina.
Bye, everyone.